Hi. Earlier today I received a email from a customer that's having some problems with the autofill function and this particular image. So I asked the person to send me the image so I could see what he was trying to use and trying to work out why he was having the dramas. So if we have a look at the image, the first thing we can see is that there's all this black area around the outside which has got nothing to do with the finished weave. So the very first thing you've got to do with any image is to select as close as you can around the image and then crop that down and get rid of all that extra area. You can have a little bit around the outside, it doesn't matter, but that won't become part of the weave. So once we've got rid of that, you look at this image and you think, okay, that looks fairly simple. It should be quite easy to use. But if we look a bit more closely by zooming in, you can see that really quickly it becomes very, very pixelated. And if you look carefully, you can see all these extra colours. There's reds and greens and blues and so on. So what's happened is that this image is a low resolution, probably started life as a JPEG. Very small image. It's only a couple of hundred pixels. So it makes it very difficult for Pictoweave or any image evaluation type tool to decide what to do with all these extra bits and pieces. When you bring it into Pictoweave, you'll say, okay, I don't want anything that's black to be part of the weave, so it'll exclude the black. That's not a problem. But when it gets to the red or the green or the shades of blue, etc., it starts doing mathematical calculations and saying, okay, it's not black, so I'm going to put it in, but what color is it closest to mathematically? And because you've selected blues here, it's going to say, okay, well, it's closest to that blue, so I'll make it blue. And then when you get back to your finished weave, you've got all this junk that's been shoved in. Doesn't make any sense, and people start to scratch their head and say, well, what's going on? So that's the problem. The first thing you've got to do is zoom right in and see just how good a quality is this image. And frankly, this one, for our purposes, is rubbish. You could spend a lot of time mucking around trying to get rid of all this. It's simply not worth it. You're better off starting off afresh, or don't do it in autofill. If you were to bring this image in manually, I'll just quickly open that up, and we'll go through the process: a design thread of A, a wrap thread of C. We're going to increase it till we've got about 80 threads is a reasonable, we'll say 76. We'll evaluate that image to get our proportions. In this case, I haven't got rid of the black around the outside, but that won't matter for the purposes of this demonstration. So it's set our grid up. We'll just load that small Panthers logo in, and I'll just bring it down to a size where you can see. With that particular image, if I was to manually paint this, I could quite successfully do it very quickly. So probably much faster than the autofill. I would normally do this at 100% zoom so that you get better results. But as you can see, it's quite easy and quite quick to manually colour this in. It's gone out of alignment because I was doing it zoomed in rather than done it at 100% zoom. But I can quite quickly paint this in, and I can make decisions about, for instance, with the eyes, I'll choose a grey colour. What do I do? It's actually more of a pink, but what do I do here to get it to look like an eye? The autofill is going to struggle in areas like this because you can see you've got bits of grid that are half coloured and half not. So do I include it or don't I? It's going to make decisions that may not be to the best interests of the of the weave design. So I'll clear this off, and we'll go back to our image. So rather than use that one, I did a quick search and I found this one on the web that's very similar. It doesn't have the blue up around the base of the neck here. We could easily put that in later. It's already been cropped and it's a very high resolution. It's over 2000 pixels. So at the moment it's a PNG file. We'll save it as a bitmap, but what we'll also do is reduce the amount of colors, and I'll show you why just before I do that. If we zoom in, you can see that there's still a bunch of shading here that's going to present a little bit of difficulty in places. So by saving it as a bitmap, reducing the color depth back to say 16 colors, and we'll just call it Panthers logo. Now what's happened is it's changed the color because we've gone back to 16 colors. There is a few still superfluous colors. You could go through in another image editing program and convert those. There's various ones such as GIMP that will allow you to select every instance of that color and change it to another. I won't worry about that for the purposes of this demonstration, because it'll help me a little bit. So if we go to autofill, I'll set it to 76, the same as what we had before. Open our image. There we can see it. So I'll left click to exclude the white. We don't want that. We're not going to want the black either, so I'll left click and exclude that. And then all these other shades, we hold the cursor over F3 to include them, and you can see over here the zoomed in area where we can try and get as many of them as we can. We'll get that one. There's a bit of a darker green there. We'll get that one. We'll get our greys for our eyes. Now I'm not concerned that it's not the color that I want to do the finished weave with, and that I've got, you know, many more colors than I want to end up with. What I'm concerned about at this point in time is getting the basic design right. So by zooming around and covering all that, so now we'll hit process. This probably won't take very long because the great majority of the image has been excluded, being the white and black areas. If this was all going to be included and there was multiple colors, this process can take quite a long time. You're better off setting it off and go and make yourself a cup of coffee or mow the lawn or something like that, and come back when it's done. As I said before, with something like this, you could quite easily have manually painted the thing before you've sat and waited for this process to go through. The autofill is really designed for simple name weaves and so on. You can do, I've done some quite complex weaves with autofill, but you generally have to go back and do a bit of work later, and it takes a bit of time to work out whether an image is going to be suitable. The quickest way to work out if it's going to be suitable, if we go back to our image here, is to resize it. So we'll resize it down to, let's say, 80 pixels high. Okay, so that's pretty much what Pictoweave is going to be looking at. It's going to be looking at an image that's 80 pixels high or 80 threads high, and then it's going to try and work out what each individual square within the grid is. And if we can see all these various colors at this point, then it's really not suitable to be used for a weave pattern, because every one of these little superfluous colors is going to show up. Whereas if we quickly open our other one, we can do it in Paint again. If I go resize 80 pixels high, and now I zoom in, can see it's a much better looking image. Despite the fact that there's still a whole bunch of different colors, it's a better looking image. So we could go through the process of trying to change these colors now, which would make life easier for Pictoweave, or you can do it as it is and you'll have to do a little bit more work later. So we'll just go back to our process is finished. Go back to our main weave window and I'll zoom right out, and you can see we've got a pretty good likeness of the panther, and we can see that we've got a few superfluous colors or incorrect colors that we need to start getting rid of. So if we hold our mouse over them, for instance, this dark teal color, we could quite easily convert all those to the midnight green. So click on it, then go edit exchange colors. On the bottom window we select the MP1890 midnight green. Okay, and it changes all instances over. If we don't want it at all, we could say, well, we don't want this color here at all. We'll delete that color entirely from the grid, and it quickly gets rid of a lot of them. Then we need to go around and fix up all these little ones like here. That should obviously be the midnight green color there. You know, there's areas here where it looks like the whisker would look better if it continued down like that. A few other spots here that that need fixing. I could, if I wished, draw this area in to make it look like the original design, and fill all this in and so on. I won't bother completing that at this point, but you get the idea. So we can go around, get rid of a few bits and pieces, tidy it up as required, convert all these colors to one, so we'll change all the instances of that to, once again, the MP1890. One of the troubles of having so many colors is it takes a little bit long to find them. So get rid of all these colors, make them all 1890. Get rid of the blue, same thing. And this lighter blue. Till we get to the point where we've basically only got the two colors left. We can go around, tidy up a few little instances of you know, where these whiskers are and bits and pieces like here. Carry on like this until we get the desired result, and then we can go so far as, you know, we didn't want it to be green in the first place. We wanted it to be a blue color. It changed to green when we reduced the color depth, so we can select that 1890, and now we can exchange it for the color that we wanted, which might have been, say, this teal blue. So it'll go through and change it to the actual thread color that we're going to use. We can do the same with the silver there. And then once that's completed, we can fill it in with our black background thread that we wanted to use, and that's effectively the completed weave. So here's a quick screenshot of it, and that's pretty much what you'll have on your rod. It looks a little bit blocky in places. A few things need to be tidied up, but that's pretty much how it's going to come out. So we could save that now. We can go through to our left list. So there's our left list with our two colours in it. We're ready to go. So hopefully that'll help explain a bit, if you are having difficulty, what the likely causes are. And 99.9% of the time it's that the image that you're trying to use simply isn't of suitable quality, has too many stray colours and so forth on it to make it usable. If you do have any questions, feel free to ask. I do prefer that you post any questions on the forum. That way everybody gets to benefit from the answers. Generally, if I'm emailed a question, unless it's very simple, I'll refer it to the forum and answer it on there so that everyone can benefit. Thanks again.